he said. And there's nothing to indicate Danny got up after shooting himself and walked around. So someone else obviously dropped the blood droplets everywhere else that we found. I'm gonna have to take a swabbing of that, bring it back to the lab, get it typed.
The blood found on and behind the television is still awaiting tests by a forensic scientist who specializes in blood pattern analysis. However, samples found in other parts of the house have been typed. Danny Williams' blood was type B. Mark Boese found type B and type O blood in the den where Danny's body was. Oddly, Boese also found type O blood in the bathroom and inside the pocket of Danny's jeans.
It is not possible that all the blood in the room came from Danny. It's an impossibility. This evidence suggests to me that two people in the room were bleeding. Two separate individuals.
The official police position is that the alleged type O blood samples had been compromised when the crime scene was cleaned. According to the Illinois State Crime Lab, the adulterated samples could not be typed definitively.
I would begin to question the procedures if they claimed that they did not find type O blood on the evidence. I could guarantee you send that same evidence to 5 different independent laboratories that have no idea what this case is about, that have no idea that this was a murder or a suicide or anything, and they will come back with type B blood and type O blood.
The police also point out that there was no way to determine how long the alleged type O blood had been there. Further, they say that Mark Boese's samples, taken 6 weeks after Danny's death, were not fresh enough to type.
I don't know why they would argue the point. King Tut was typed for blood, and he's how many thousands of years old?
The independent lab feels very confident in their results. They have provided those results to Mr. Williams, and that's contributed to his concerns about the finding of suicide. We feel just as strongly about the results of the Illinois State Crime Lab, that there was no evidence of a type O blood in that home.
Mark Boese's investigation appeared to turn up a piece of evidence which had been previously overlooked and which supported the theory that the blood of 2 different people was shed in Danny's house.
It's the same type that Danny's gun would use.
Mark was processing the room. He opened the couch up and a shell casing fell out. The later test showed that this shell did come from Danny's gun. It had been recently fired. So there were 2 shells found on the couch that came from Danny's gun. Okay, now we tried to analyze this and decide, well, did Danny shoot someone? Did someone else use Danny's gun and shoot him?
From the scene photos I saw, Danny's gun was laying on his lap, his hand was laying on top of the gun, just as if he shot and then set it back down. It's a little inconsistent with a suicide. Okay, Larry, I set up the rod here in line with the bullet path through the wall. Now I'm gonna get down and try to get my head in line with the bullet path in the wall. How am I doing?
Well, you're low enough, but you gotta point the gun more toward the wall.
I can't do it. I can't squeeze off. The only way I can think of holding the weapon in this manner. Okay, how am I doing?
Yeah, the line's right.
All right, and it's through my head, and it can be squeezed off.
But you would fall over on the floor.
I would fall over on the floor. The body would have gone forward. The body would have moved back into the position it was in. The gun probably would not have been in his lap. It probably would be on the floor at a coffee table.
Our investigation indicated that the position of the hole in the wall was consistent with the way the body was found, primarily based on the fact that we again can't say specifically how the individual was sitting and exactly where on the couch he was sitting at the time the weapon was discharged.
Mark Boese has come to believe that Danny was probably not shot in the den. One theory is that there was an altercation somewhere else, during which Danny's blood and another person's was spilled. Perhaps that person took Danny's keys out of his pocket, leaving behind a trace of type O blood. Finally, the crime scene was arranged to make Danny's death look like a suicide.
We can advance theories all day long. Everyone can. But the factual data that we've gathered we feel comfortable with.
Well, he picked up a gun and he...
According to
said
the police, there was one final fact to support the suicide ruling. They say that Danny Williams' girlfriend described an argument which had also resulted in a shooting incident 6 months before Danny's death.
He had placed a weapon, a handgun, to his head. She then turned and started to leave the room and heard the weapon discharge and found that he had discharged the weapon into a wall. So apparently, he had considered this act before, he had discussed this act before, and had taken, I think, what would have to be considered a substantial step towards that act by the discharge of the weapon during the argument.
What it appears has happened is they have come up with a conclusion, and then they've gone to a great degree of effort to try to support their theory that they put together. Had they put as much effort into trying to find out what the truth was and what happened, they would be working along the same lines that the family is today. Fact.
Danny, this is your dad.
The investigators, crime labs, and what have you that I've had working on this from the beginning, as soon as they went into the house, saw evidence that was in there then and still there now, were convinced that I was that it was cold-blooded murder.
In this most perplexing case, one issue has never been addressed. If Danny Williams was murdered, who killed him and why? Questions even his father has been unable to answer. Next week, Unsolved Mysteries travels to Russia to investigate the fascinating mystery of Anastasia. She was a beautiful teenage daughter of the last Tsar of Russia, Nicholas II. History holds that the entire imperial family was executed in the aftermath of the Bolshevik Revolution. But years later, a woman named Anna Anderson turned up in Germany claiming that she was Anastasia, and many believe she had the evidence to prove it. Her incredible claim sparked a 35-year court battle for the Tsar's legacy of $80 million. Join me next time for this intriguing journey to turn-of-the-century Russia and more on Unsolved Mysteries.
This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, the actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is not a news broadcast.
It was Christmas 45 years ago. Sympathetic deputies transformed the jail in Henry County, Illinois, into a sanctuary for a destitute mother, Hilda Cron, and her family. But within weeks, the simple act of charity would backfire, when 7 of Hilda's 9 children were separated and put up for adoption. Barbara Pasiak was thrilled when her daughter Paula brought her boyfriend home for a visit. 5 days later, Paula was dead, and the boyfriend was on the run, suspected of murder. Also one of the most fascinating mysteries of this century, the story of Anastasia, youngest daughter of the last Tsar of Russia. History records that she was executed, along with the rest of her family, by Bolshevik revolutionaries in 1918. But evidence abounds that history may be wrong. In the 1920s, a mysterious woman turned up in Germany using the name Anna Anderson and claiming that she was Anastasia. For more than 70 years, the secret of Anna Anderson's true identity has provoked a tantalizing and often fiery debate. Join me as we journey to Russia on this very special edition of Unsolved Mysteries. name was Anastasia. She was more royal than a princess. She was an imperial Grand Duchess of Russia, daughter of Tsar Nicholas II, the wealthiest man in the world. Anastasia was born with her father's captivating azure blue eyes. But the Tsar already had 3 daughters. He, along with all of Russia, wanted a boy, an heir to the throne. Anastasia must have sensed that she was a disappointment. She grew into an unrepentant tomboy, a jokester, the family clown. Even after a son was finally born, Anastasia remained the rebel of the Imperial Romanov family. Her impish nature was irrepressible, whether she was roller skating on the decks of the Imperial yacht or enduring the pomp and panoply of the Russian court. Then on July 17, 1918, Anastasia's fairy tale life came to a horrible end. She was just 17 when her entire family was executed, along with her physician and 3 servants. Their burial site remained a dark state secret. As far as history was concerned, that was the end of Anastasia and her family. 19 months later, a young woman, nameless and alone, wandered the gloomy, damp streets of Berlin, Germany. When she came to Bendler Bridge, spanning a murky city canal, the stage was set for one of the world's great mysteries.
Nein, stop!
Eventually, the young woman would take the name Anna Anderson and shock the world by claiming that she was the Grand Duchess Anastasia. The debate over her identity rages to this day.
There is absolutely no question in my mind at all that the Grand Duchess Anastasia survived the assassination of the Romanovs in 1918, made it to the West, and died in the United States as Anna Anderson. No question at all.
Despite adamant opinions on both sides, it seemed this was a mystery which would never be solved. Then on July 12, 1991, in this remote field near the Siberian city of Ekaterinburg, Russia, the remains of the Tsar's family were finally unearthed. To the astonishment of almost everyone, 2 bodies were missing from the grave. One was Anastasia's. Now, using sophisticated DNA technology, scientists may finally be able to answer once and for all the question that has haunted history for nearly 75 years. Was Anna Anderson, in fact, the Grand Duchess Anastasia, whose name means she who is reborn? Nicholas II, fated to be the last Tsar of Russia. In the beginning, his life was the envy of the world. An adoring wife of royal blood, Alexandra, granddaughter of Queen Victoria of England. 4 beautiful daughters, the Grand Duchesses Olga, Tatiana, Marie, and Anastasia. And finally, a son Alexei, heir to the throne. Alexei, however, was a hemophiliac. His disease was kept a tightly held family secret, and the 7 Romanovs grew more and more into themselves. Even their closest relatives saw little of them. But while the Romanovs lived in grand and increasingly isolated opulence, most of their subjects were starving. When Nicholas involved his country in World War I, hundreds of thousands of his soldiers had neither shoes nor rifles. More than 1 million men were killed or wounded. Finally, the people rebelled. In 1917, Nicholas abdicated to a provisional democratic government, but soon after, that government fell to the radical Bolsheviks. The Tsar's mother and sisters made it safely out of the country, but the Tsar, his wife and children, were virtual prisoners in their own palace. On August 13, 1917, the Romanovs were banished in the dead of night from the summer palace just outside St. Petersburg. 11 months later, the entire family was executed. or so it was thought, until the mysterious young woman appeared in Germany on February 18th, 1920.
Please right this way, miss.
After her suicide attempt, police committed the young woman to Daldorf Asylum, a mental institution just outside Berlin.
You must be responsible.
She gave no information about herself and was dubbed Miss Unknown.
Sharp.
Only much later would she take the name Anna Anderson.
This is your bag.
At Daldorf, she underwent her first physical examination. Doctors discovered that her body was covered with scars, for which they could find no explanation.
There is a one.
She began to reveal her own personality very slowly.
Dinner is at 6.
For many, many months, she virtually never left her bed. And
James Blair Lovell, author of Anastasia, the Lost Princess, knew Anna Anderson personally.
she was, in her mind, in hiding. And the best place to hide was this asylum where no one would come looking for her or suspect that she was who she was.
The patient hid her identity successfully until a woman named Clara Puthart was admitted to the same ward at Daldorf in December of 1921.
Clara, good morning. What is it? I know you. I don't understand. What are you talking about? Oh, it is all right, my daughter. You know, it's such a miracle that you're alive.
Clara Puthart was a devotee, as were so many people then, of royalty magazines.
Yesterday.
And she began to look at pictures of the Romanovs.
Look at this picture.
And she began to believe that Miss Unknown bore a striking, uncanny resemblance to the Grand Duchess Tatiana.
And then it came to me. It was you.
Miss Unknown neither confirmed nor denied Clara Puthart's claim.
I can see the resemblance.
Soon word reached several members of the Russian nobility exiled in Paris. They sent an official representative, a Madame Tolstoy, to Daldorf.
We are just here to talk. There's someone I would like you to meet.
Please go away. I don't want to see anyone.
Don't be afraid, child.
Hiya, Capsa.
It's just that I spoke with your friend Clara, and she has told me so much about you. I wanted to meet you for myself. My God. She has eyes of Nicholas.
How you doing? How are you doing, Cubside? Hell of a lot cooler today. Wow, wow, wow.
Oh, dear. Okay, Si. Yeah. I've put it all back together, that retro computer now.
Oh, right.
So it just needs three more fans ordering. And then we could, I don't know what to use it for. I might just use it for emulators or something, or just flog it, get rid of it. It'll be basically an old system, but brand spanking new. Get rid of it. Not doing too bad, that washing's nearly dry on the line.
Oh, good.
Do another one tomorrow.
Now the sun's decided to come out.
Yeah, sun's shining.
Typical.
I've got to fire up that other computer as well. I've got to get Windows installed on it. Not done it yet. What's the matter? You okay?
Treat.
Want some treats? Come on then. Let's go and get you some treats. Yeah, now.
Even though I'm not looking for these parts.
Good girl. Good girl. Yeah, it's alright, you got it. That's it, all done. Good girl. Good girl. All done. What else to build next? Oh, I'm back on your computer, aren't I? I'm going to order your cable set, you know, before me Amazon Prime runs out. We'll get your Corsair cable set ordered. And I don't have to worry about that then. All bits in it. All bits and bobs. Oh, that's that red house there, isn't it? What are you doing on this side? Because I put loads of this together. Where's all your umbrella gone? I had it all built here.
No, I didn't know that was there.
Well, yeah, because you pulled it all apart. I had it all built. And she doesn't go there. She's over the... what's it? She's over on this side. She's here. So yeah, you have moved it all. It's got nothing to do with that. That is lower down and across over here. Because I had all the fencing put here with the bloke as well.
I put all on that side. I was trying to help you.
Really stripy bits you need, fine. Not roofing. Hmm. Found it. You found it all.
Oh, it's called a puzzle. That's why it's called a puzzle.
Later, Tolstoy told people that when she saw those eyes, in the context of the rest of the face, she knew she was looking at one of the daughters of the Tsar.
Eventually, Anna Anderson told several nurses she was actually Anastasia, the youngest Grand Duchess. Indeed, she did resemble Anastasia facially and in height and age. Apparently, several childhood scars and birthmarks were checked out, and they too matched. Now the fresh scars seemed to make sense. Perhaps they were remnants of Bolshevik bullets and bayonets. 4 years later, in July of 1925, while the young woman was hospitalized for surgery, she received a visitor. Shura Giar, Anastasia's former nanny, had come to see for herself just who Miss Unknown was. Shura recognized the Grand Duchess, both by her childhood scars and by a bone deformity on her right foot. Then the young woman beckoned to Shura to massage her forehead with cologne. It had been a favorite childhood ritual of Anastasia's, known only to the two of them. Later, Shura and her husband brought the Tsar's sister Olga to visit. Olga had last seen her niece when Anastasia was a plump, boisterous adolescent, more than a decade earlier.
You? My child, you're so pale.
Her aunt said that this young woman had lost so much weight that she was unable to make a positive visual identification of her, and so they talked.
I am so happy you came.
According to Anastasia,
I missed my family.
Olga then did say, "You are my niece, I recognize you."
We shall not abandon you.
This is such a nice hospital.
The next day, in a private visit with Olga, Anastasia made a revelation about the Tsar's secret bank account, which would ultimately prove to be her undoing.
Not unexplained.
You know,
Well,
we lost everything when we escaped from
unexplained mystery,
I don't
unsolved
have to worry
mysteries.
about me.
It's with Robert Stack.
Because all the money that Nicholas left for us. Your father...
There was, she believed, in the Bank of England, $80 million.
I don't think so.
This was news to the family. And that one conversation, that incident, radically changed the life of Anna Anderson forever.
Anastasia was betrayed. $80 million in 1925 was the equivalent of $5.6 billion in today's economy. It was ample motivation for
I'm more
Anastasia's
listening
aunt and
to
the
it
other
than I
surviving
am
women
watching it.
to
But I do
deny her
glance up
identity,
now and then.
therefore her right to any of the money. In essence, she was once again Miss Unknown. However, Anastasia was not abandoned by everyone. In 1927, she took up residence in a German castle under the protection of a sympathetic Duke and Duchess. That spring, Gleb Botkin, a close childhood friend of Anastasia's, traveled from his home in the United States to see whether the Grand Duchess had somehow survived. Gleb was the youngest child of the Tsar's physician, Dr. Eugene Botkin. The doctor had been executed along with the imperial family. Gleb was able to escape.
It's kind of interesting.
One of the child
I've heard the name Anastasia, but I never heard of the story. So it's kind of
animals dressed in
strange.
human clothing and in human-like situations. Give the picture to the young Anastasia, and she then would make up a story to explain the action in the picture. He recognized her immediately, and as she leafed through them, she remembered the stories that she had made up years earlier to accompany the pictures.
That they were safe. Because the cat was caught by a lion.
It was the most significant recognition of Anastasia in her lifetime.
What about my father?
And Gleb Botkin became, as she called him, her lifelong champion.
Friends with the lion.
Only later would Anna recount for Gleb what she knew about the terrible night of July 17th, 1918. she had been horribly wounded and rendered unconscious during the execution. How she had been thrown on a truck with the dead bodies of her family. How the truck lumbered off into the night, heading to a secret gravesite. At some point, the truck overheated. A soldier named Alexander Tchaikovsky was one of those left to stand guard. He realized Anastasia was not dead. Aided by his brother, Tchaikovsky spirited her to safety.
Never really looked into it, to be honest. I've heard the
Alexander Tchaikovsky was later
name of Anastasia.
Anastasia eventually made her way to Germany on Bembler Bridge.
Fascinating stuff. It's better than, how could I put it?
Botkin and Anna's lawyer were finally able to go to court and claim Anastasia's inheritance.
These type of stories are better than UFO bleeding stories.
During the course of this entire case,
None of the principals had any idea that the case, including several appeals, would drag on literally for the rest of their lives. From the beginning, Anna's attorneys based their arguments on numerous points of similarity between the Grand Duchess and Anna Anderson. Experts analyzed photographs of both women's ears. A match impressed even Anna's bitterest enemies. Various scars and birthmarks also matched. Handwriting samples were analyzed and found virtually identical. Anna was now 58 years old.
Oh, I'll have to have a look at that.
Increasingly
Well, at the moment, I'm very much into documentaries at the moment.
Anna lived in a remote German village near the Black Forest. Her modest cottage was overgrown with weeds and overrun by her 4 dogs and 30 cats.
Good afternoon, Miss Anderson. Can I talk to you?
In 1959, during an appeal of the case, a judge and 2 language experts came to ascertain whether Anna, who almost always spoke German or English, could also speak Russian.
Who are these people?
These are the experts that your attorney agreed upon.
Anastasia refused to allow anyone into her house except the judge.
I never agreed to any such meeting.
And when he extended his hand to shake hers, she refused to do so, saying that she was afraid of germs. In fact, she considered it a breach of etiquette on the part of a lowly German Supreme Court judge to want to shake the hand of a Russian Grand Duchess.
I have made my choices, and I am willing to live with them.
She refused to speak Russian too. It was totally social, as if this were just a little tea party. And at the end of 10 minutes, she dismissed it.
Finally, in 1967, the German High Court issued a decision. There was not enough evidence to prove Anna Anderson's claim. The court did state, however, that the death of Grand Duchess Anastasia could not be considered a verifiable historical fact. Despite that small victory, Anna had had enough of lawyers and courts. These home movies of Anna Anderson, televised here for the first time, were shot in Germany in 1967. The following year, Anna moved to Charlottesville, Virginia, where her protector, Gleb Botkin, introduced her to one of his friends. On December 23, 1968, Anna married Jack Manahan, 18 years her junior. 1 year later, Gleb Botkin died, never wavering in his belief that Anna Anderson was Anastasia. In fact, Anna now called herself Anastasia Manahan. She and Jack were a quirky, eccentric.
The only thing that I do not watch or get into is anything to do with the damn UFO crap.
Anastasia died in 1984. Jack in 1990.
I know they do it on this show a lot, even on the Dennis Fahrenheit, the Unsolved Mysteries, the second one. But I'm very, very skeptical with that.
Still, everyone expected to find all 7 Romanovs, as well as 4 members of the
No doubt there is. Thing.
In the grave, there was supposed to be 11 bodies,
Sorry.
but only 9 were there. 2 were missing. For a whole year we looked for the 2 missing skeletons, but we could never find them.
There, that's better. That was my cross-stitch stone.
In an effort to determine which skeletons were missing, the Russians invited American forensic expert Dr. William Maitland to examine the remains.
We looked at the remains, we photographed the remains, we measured the remains, and for each of the 9 skeletons we determined age, sex, race. We determined that the Tsar was most likely there. Body 7 was the Tsarina. We had the family physician, Dr. Botkin. We had 3 of the daughters. But I don't believe any of the 3 daughters could be young enough to be Anastasia, who was 17 years, 1 month at the time of the shooting.
Also missing were the remains of Alexei, the Tsar's youngest child and only son. It was the absence of Anastasia's body, however, which once again fueled the controversy. Was it possible that Anastasia had somehow managed to escape the carnage?
Whether she could have survived that night, I seriously doubt it. As a forensic scientist looking at the objective evidence that we don't have any evidence that anyone would have survived. The damage to the remains was pretty profound.
The official Bolshevik account is as follows. The Romanovs were imprisoned in the former home of a wealthy Ekaterinburg industrialist. The Tsar had been ordered by the Bolsheviks to awaken his family. There was unrest in the town, and supposedly, Romanovs had to be moved for their own protection. The girls were given half an hour to dress. They carefully laced on their corsets. A fortune in precious stones and gems had been sewn into the linings. The Romanovs, along with Gleb Botkin's father and 3 servants, were led into the cellar. They had no way of knowing they were about to die. The Tsarina asked for chairs. 2 were brought. Then abruptly, Yakov Yurovsky, the Bolshevik officer in charge, read the orders of execution.
Для того, что ваши родственники продолжают наступление на Советскую Россию, Уралисполком постановил расстрелять вас.
Nicholas, dumbfounded, asked him to repeat.
Ввиду того, что ваши родственники продолжают наступление на Советскую Россию, Уралисполком постановил расстрелять вас.
When they began shooting, the bullets bounced off Grand Duchess and returned to them. They did not know that in corsets of Grand Duchess, the Tsarina hid their jewels, and jewels protected them. They decided that God protected them, and they immediately became crazy, and disorder shooting began.
In the first volley of shots, Anastasia was not hit. After everyone else was dead, even the Bolshevik accounts will tell you that Anastasia was alive. One account has her standing up and screaming, while one of the guards stuck a bayonet through one of her feet to pin her to the floor, and the other one clubbed her in the jaw with a rifle butt.
Assuming Anastasia was now dead, Yurovsky's men loaded all the bodies onto a truck. However, en route to the secret burial site, the truck would get bogged in the mud. Yurovsky would decide to dispose of the bodies on the spot. Yurovsky reported that in order to confuse anyone who might locate the grave, he burned 2 of the bodies and disposed of the charred remains right there. The other 9, he wrote, were buried together a few meters away. Edvard Rodzinski, author of The Last Tsar, a life and death of Nicholas II, believes that Yurovsky simply invented this scenario to cover up the fact that he could not account for all the bodies.
They did not see two bodies when they buried the Romanov in this terrible grave. And Yurovsky had only one opportunity to explain it. He wrote, "We burned two bodies." It was the end. Costello?
Not only Anastasia, but two of the other daughters as well were actually alive.
Michael Medvedev, whose father was a member of the execution squad, disagrees.
When the soldier began to move the body from the wall of execution onto some stretchers, the girls regained consciousness and moaned in pain, including Anastasia. And one of the soldiers, named Peter Yormakov, he killed Anastasia.
And so the great riddle continues. Is the body of Grand Duchess Anastasia hidden in a shallow grave near the spot where the rest of her family was found? Or did Anastasia somehow survive the assassination, only to emerge years later as the eccentric Anna Anderson? Many of those who knew Anna best believe the truth is undeniable.
Can I scratch master?
Anderson was Anastasia. All she wanted was for the world to leave her alone, and for her surviving family members to publicly acknowledge what they privately acknowledged, and that was simply her identity.
I rocket.
It was December of 1948. Christmas was just around the corner. Anawan, Illinois seemed like a Norman Rockwell painting. Wholesome, peaceful, serene. But while most families were joyfully anticipating the arrival of the holiday season, one couple, Frank and
Okie
Hilda
dokie,
Carter,
rocket.
visited by disaster.
Thank you for popping in.
The Crons were lived with 7 of their children in a small farmhouse in the outskirts of town. There was no plumbing or heating. And every night, the children all crammed into a single bed to keep warm.
Hello, you Mrs. Hilda Carr? Your husband home?
No, I'm sorry, I had to leave early this morning. Why? Is something wrong?
Well, yes, ma'am, I'm afraid there is. We have a eviction notice here from your landlord, and I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you and your family to vacate the premises.
The deputies learned that the Crons had nowhere to go and took pity. They decided they could not let the family spend Christmas out in the cold. In the spirit of the season, they took Hilda and the children to the only available family in town, Henry County Jail. Raymond Cron was 8 years old at the time.
They just put us all in cars. The jail we come. It was just a place for us to be in out of the weather. That's what I kind of remember of this being. There was no other place for us.
Suddenly the jail was
I'm
transformed.
okay.
Its cold cement walls were now home for a destitute mother and her
Ish.
7 young children. The boys and girls were free to roam throughout the jail, but in a mystery that is still troubling, their parents were forbidden to see one another.
The dad wasn't allowed to go in to the jail to see mother, and she wasn't allowed to go out. And I never understood that either. Like I said, they let us go wherever we wanted to and do whatever we wanted to.
go outside whenever we wanted to. We used to go down and talk to other prisoners. We used to play with things that we weren't supposed to. And I remember it was a fun place, you know, because I was only 8 and I didn't know what was really going on.
Marie Kroll was 4 years old in 1948. Her memories of jailhouse life were quite different from her brother Raymond's.
One time my mother was giving me a bath in the place, and then we're walking by.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Hello, Sheriff.
And I got really nervous. I didn't want to be in that tub. Every time then after that it was time for me to take a bath, I didn't want to. Because I was afraid these men would walk back by again and see me in that tub.
A week went by. Then two. On December 17th, 1948, the family's plight was publicized in the local newspaper and carried this photograph, the only family portrait known to exist. In response, many community members offered assistance. A well-intentioned social worker hoped to brighten the children's Christmas by taking them out of jail and placing them in foster homes for the holidays.
Hello.
Hi, just a weekend. Hey, kitty.
You girls are gonna come with me for a little ride.
Yeah, it's a weekend, alright.
We really had never been away from our mother. Our mother had always been there and everything else.
We're gonna have to cut
But
that.
finally we had to go.
Yeah.
There was no way that we were going to get to stay
Cut
here.
what?
That graphics card holder.
I felt
The only way it'll fit.
that if we went, that we would have at least a nice Christmas, one that we
Well,
had never actually ever
figure
had in
something
our
out.
life. And then, like I say, that's the last time either one of us saw our mother.
Weekend.
While her mother
There's the
remained
bottom of that
behind,
railing there.
Marie and Francis were placed in separate homes and eventually adopted. But to this day, Marie wonders whether her mother actually consented to give the children away.
Maybe she couldn't read, and if she signed any papers that was giving us away, she didn't know what she was signing, that she was maybe told that she was signing a release form for us, giving her permission for us to go for over the holidays.
Christmas Day finally arrived.
So that's what you want for dinner then? An omelette?
It was a day without Santa Claus and stocking, but not completely.
Yeah, James there. See, he has the railings with his legs and everything. What have you done with that? Right then.
Dinner tray, there's a candy bar on it.
Does he look? He's got black shorts on.
It made an impression on me because I probably never had anything like that for quite a while.
Not him.
Or even, anything for Christmas for a while that I
Nope,
remember.
that's that way up. That is.
In my mind, and it always will.
See where he is on the picture?
Within a month, Raymond
Look.
and his brothers Clarence and Leonard would be placed in children's homes.
See?
But the fate of their parents, Frank and Hilda Kroll, remains a mystery to this day. Marie recalls being told that they had been banished from the state of Illinois.
My adopted mother told me that they were never to return, that if they did, they would be arrested. That I don't know, but she never explained why or anything else.
The secrets about her mother and father plagued Marie throughout childhood. She and her sister Frances, now named Junior, had been adopted by neighboring families who, for reasons unknown, insisted on keeping the young girls apart.
I remember that one time I went up to the store and Frances was up there at the store. So we walked home together and we talked. And then her mother came and called her in.
See you later, Rocket. Have fun.
See you later, Rocket.
And she told me she'd be back out. And I waited and waited. And then finally I went
Yeah,
out
that's the back of his
door,
leg.
and her adopted mother came to the door and says she can't come out. She has things to do, and then shut the door and went home, and I was real upset about it.
Years passed. Marie never stopped wondering about her brothers and sisters. Finally, in 1966, Marie learned through a mutual friend that Raymond, whom she had not seen in 18 years, was living in a nearby community.
I remember driving down the street looking for Raymond's house, and then I saw this guy standing on the porch, and I knew right away it was Raymond, and I stopped the car and jumped out and ran up there, and it was really wonderful to see him again after all that time not being together.
The minute she got there, I knew she was my sister. I knew it was her. I hadn't seen her for 18 years, and it was a real exciting reunion.
You know, I got a little lost on my way here, but as soon as I saw you...
See, that's got to be the back of his leg.
Marie and Raymond spent hours reminiscing and catching up on the years they had spent apart. Together, they vowed to find out what had happened to the rest of their family. For 18 years, Marie and Raymond suffered through a series of near misses and false leads. Finally, in 1993, they did locate one sister, Carol. Then their story aired on Unsolved Mysteries. Incredible, within a few hours, 2 more sisters
We'll look
and
for the
3
Ravens.
brothers had been found. On
I don't
July
know
9th,
what that is for.
1994, we were at Raymond's house in Houston, Texas, as the Cron family gathered for their first reunion in more than 45 years. Marie's dream had finally come
It can't be her leg, because the only leg what's near Raymond's is his.
For a long time, because I didn't know if I would ever get to really meet him in person or not. I feel that the love is, still there. It never went away. It's always been there, and I always wondered about him, and now I'll finally get to find out what's been going on with their life and everything, and get reacquainted.
For the older sister, Betty Jane, the reunion was particularly emotional.
I knew that was Marie right away. Just by looking at her, I knew that was Marie. And that's been the first one I embraced. I was very happy to see them all. They all started coming to me, and I started going to them, hugging them and everything. So I was very happy, and I feel so good. I really do.
For Raymond, the end of the search meant a new beginning.
She's getting a bit cooler.
I always knew that their names and everything.
Okay, Bobby.
I didn't know how to go about finding them.
Yeah,
And
it's just
we
like...
hunted, and we just got turned down every place we turned to try to find them. And till this come along, it worked.
When we return, authorities need your help to find a man suspected of killing his girlfriend. Kissimmee, Florida is a lakeside resort town about 10 miles south of Orlando. On July 9th, 1986, 22-year-old Paula Pazian and her boyfriend Jerry Gervasoni arrived from New Jersey to visit Paula's mother, Barbara.
They stayed there about 1 week. They all had a good time together. Paula was as happy as a lark. The 2 of them were. I mean, they were very together. They were happy-go-lucky.
Thanks for dinner. It was really good, wasn't it?
During their visit, Paula and Jerry slept in Barbara's bedroom while she slept on a couch.
So do you guys have any plans for tomorrow or what?
Sunday, 4 nights after they arrived, Paula and Jerry told Barbara they would be leaving the next morning for a short excursion to another part of Florida.
I got up the next morning.
Good night.
And I thought I heard them up. And I didn't know whether they were or not, so I didn't bother to say goodbye. Maybe if I had, things would have been different.
Over the next 5 days, an odd smell began to waft through Barbara's mobile home. However, she and a friend were unable to determine where it was coming from.
Well, on Saturday morning, I got up. By now, the odor had really become strong to the point where I had to search around to see what was causing this.
Barbara searched the entire trailer and found nothing. The last place she looked was in her own bedroom. Hidden under the bed, wrapped in a bamboo curtain, was Paula's body.
At first, I wasn't sure of what I seen.
Hi, Nicole, my sister. Hi, Patrick.
I had to stop and think, is this real or am I seeing things?
Paula Paziak had been strangled to death and left under the bed for nearly a week. The prime suspect was Jerry Gervasoni, but he had dropped from sight. Less than a month later, authorities got their first break when they questioned a friend of Jerry's. Just 3 days after the murder, he had picked Jerry up at the Newark, New Jersey airport. He claimed that Jerry virtually confessed to killing Paula.
What would you say if I told you I killed someone? I don't know what happened. I just freaked out. I lost it. Over what? I needed some quick cash, so I swiped the old.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Why are you in my mother's door?
Just looking for a light.
Wait. These are her papers, and I saw you put something in your pocket. Are you trying to rip her off?
No.
Then let me see what's in your pocket. Let me
Don't
see
touch
what's
me.
in your pocket.
Get out of my way.
Show me. You liar!
Shut up. I didn't mean to hurt her. Broke her neck.
Look, man, if you've done something like that, you're not getting in my car, and you're not coming back to my place. You got it? I scared you. I just did.
The witness was very surprised when he learned that Paula had been murdered.
You should have seen your face.
After 7 years, I believe that Jerry has decided that he's no longer wanted or that we're no longer looking for him. And he's able to roam the streets freely without worry of being arrested.
But the 7 years since Paula Paziak's murder have been filled with pain for her mother, Barbara. In that time, Barbara has seen her own life gradually unravel.
I've become a very angry, very hateful person. Oh, your life is never the same. Part of you dies.
Update, British Columbia, Canada. On October 21st, 1993, Jerry Gervasoni was arrested in a small community of Salt Springs Island, where he had been living under the assumed name Gordon McIntyre. When our program aired in Canada, Gervasoni's former landlord recognized him and immediately called authorities.
I come home and sit down to dinner about 9:30, quarter to 10, and flip on the TV, and there was a photo of Gordon McIntyre, my tenant.
Once in custody, the suspect vehemently insisted that he truly was Gordon McIntyre, but fingerprints soon confirmed that he was in fact Gerald Gervasoni. At the local airport, Gervasoni tried to avoid photographers as he was hustled onto a waiting airplane. He was then flown to a deportation hearing in Victoria, Canada. Gervasoni will be held there pending extradition to Florida, where he will face charges in the murder of Paula Pazia. Join me next time. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery. Imagine the vast arid deserts of the American West flowering into a modern-day Garden of Eden. Incredible as it seems, a former rocket scientist believes he has found a vast underground river in Nevada that could create just such a transformation. After World War II, a trusting Polish couple sent their only son off to America with friends. They had no idea that they would never see him again. In Los Angeles, Ted Losif, a prominent surgeon, was found dead in his garage. The police ruled suicide, but Ted's mother, Zell, was not convinced. Disturbed by the odd behavior of Ted's wife, Zell began to suspect that her son had been targeted for murder. Zell Losif embarked on her own investigation. An investigation that ultimately forced authorities to reclassify her son's death. Perhaps someone watching tonight will have that one vital clue that could help end Zell Losif's odyssey. Join me. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery.
The doorbell rang at 10 o'clock at night, and my daughter and her husband were at the door. I was startled. Company at 10, but when I took a look at their face, I knew I was going to hear something awful.
On February 25th, 1974, Zell Losif in Los Angeles, California, sat numbly through the funeral of her only son, Ted. 2 days earlier, the 40-year-old orthopedic surgeon had apparently taken his own life. Zell was devastated. In her grief, she could not have imagined what lay ahead.
Awesome.
An all-consuming 19-year investigation into her son's death
Well,
ultimately forced authorities to back down from the official finding of suicide.
Of all people in the world, Ted was not one to take his life. My son was murdered. Definitely.
The night Ted Losif died, police found a suicide, apparently written to his wife, Wilma. The note said simply, "All I ever asked for was one moment of compassion and understanding." Zell Losif now believes the note was a finishing touch in a plot to cover up the murder of his son.
Congratulations, Ted. This is quite a setup.
Well, thanks a lot, Bob. I'm very proud of it.
Ted Losif was already a well-respected surgeon when he moved his practice in 1971.
Come on back here. I'll give you the quarters for it.
During a private reception at his new offices, Ted was introduced to a nurse named Wilda Lloyd.
You know Dr. Ted Losif?
No.
This is Wilda Lloyd.
Man, how Wilda Lloyd.
Ted and Wilda were married less than a year later. At Ted's insistence, Wilda signed a prenuptial agreement. She would get no property if the marriage ended in divorce. Within 6 months, that seemed increasingly likely.
She had problems with alcohol, and it wasn't good. I soon learned that the marriage was a marriage, not of love. Wilda would go into histrionics and scream and yell and carry on. The fighting was just awful.
Apparently, the bitter argument plagued the marriage up until the day Ted Losif died, February 23rd, 1974.
Officer, you have to help me. My husband, he's got a gun.
That evening, at around 8 p.m., an anxious Wilda Losif had called police, saying her husband was armed.
Okay, let's go. Is your keys in the house? Yeah, I have your keys.
Waiting with Wilda were Edward J., a family friend, and the Losif's housekeeper. Ted didn't answer, and there was no sign of it anywhere in the house.
Well, I don't know where he is, but he's definitely not here. Usually parks outside the gate, though.
Around the side here. Ted!
They found him in his car in the garage. It had to be suicide. It wasn't until a little later, when things began to become so suspicious, that I wondered about it.
The car was running, the victim was behind the wheel, and this hose was in the tailpipe and fed in through the window.
To authorities on the scene, the evidence of suicide was overwhelming, and there was no further investigation. No fingerprints were taken. No autopsy was performed. No questions were asked. In the days following Ted's death, Zell and Wilda rarely spoke. When they did finally meet face to face in March of 1974, Zell was totally unprepared for Wilda's behavior. Zell had asked Wilda for a keepsake, a watch she had given her son as a wedding present.
I know you're worried about this. I wasn't worried about this, Zell. I didn't care about Ted when you did. I'm glad he's gone.
Wilda's harsh comments had awakened unfocused suspicions in Zell, and her grief was slowly overtaken by doubts. She began to feel as something was not quite right about the suicide scene. Incredibly, Zell says the discrepancies finally became clear to her in a dream. She recalled that Ted had never parked his car in the garage.
I saw a garage filled with lots and lots of boat equipment, cartons of boxes, and I realized I was at Ted's garage. And I knew that to put his car there, it had to move the things that were in that garage. Ted had back surgery. It was impossible for him physically. And then I saw the gates, these great big double old iron gates.
In her dream, Zell remembered that the driveway gates were damaged and difficult to open. Ted had always parked in front of the house. implications of the dream were simple but stunning. Someone had cleared out the garage and pried open the gates. The suicide had been staged. Her son murdered in cold blood. Zell's suspicions alone were not nearly enough to get the case reopened. Taking matters into her own hands, she tracked down her son's former housekeeper. Her account of Ted's last day would confirm Zell's worst fears.
I'm Zell Losef, and I've been looking for the housekeeper who worked for my son Ted. Mrs. Losef.
To protect her identity, we will call the housekeeper Mary. The following recreations are based on her sworn testimony before a Los Angeles County coroner's inquest.
Well, I was supposed to arrive at 8:30, but I didn't get there until around 10, and when I arrived, Dr. Losef was in the kitchen. Turn gas on.
Oh, that's okay.
I hope your wife isn't angry that I wasn't here earlier.
She's not going to be around here anymore. We have a little misunderstanding, and, well, we're going to be getting a divorce.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But around 2 o'clock, she came in. She parked her car directly in front of the door, and then she went right upstairs. And then a few minutes later, I heard all this screaming and yelling. And I said, if you want me to continue to work with you, you'll have to talk to my husband. So he paid me for my work, and I got in my car and I drove down the street, and there was Mrs. Losef.
Mrs. Losef, what are you doing? Oh my God, Mary, what am I going to do? I can't go back there.
And then she asked me if she could go with me, and I said, well, yes. So I drove home. She kept insisting Dr. Losef had a gun, so I called the police. No, officer. No, I'm not the gun. She said that he had a gun.
He had a gun. I saw a gun.
She insisted he has a gun. Why don't you come talk to me? They told me that they couldn't go over there if I hadn't seen a gun, and I hadn't seen it. Thank you, officer. I'm going to call Dr. Losef.
Mary says she tried to call Ted at least 20 times between 3 and 8 p.m. Every time, the line was busy.
About 8 o'clock, I called Dr. Losef again. It's ringing, finally. No one's answering. I'm going to call the police again.
Within the hour, police had found Ted's body. Their initial belief that he killed himself was confirmed by the discovery of the note in an upstairs bedroom. However, to Mary, it was the first of several alarming discrepancies.
I always thought that note on the shirt cardboard was kind of strange, because I had been wearing Dr. Losef shirts for a long time, and I always used a hanger. I never used a shirt cardboard.
I see. As she stood with her husband and gazed at Dr. Losef's body, Mary was jarred by another
Right, I'm
inconsistency.
going to call it now, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will be live later on. Lots of love to you all. Thank you for joining. Bye, everybody.